If you enjoyed this audiobook, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Chapter 1. Meeting Money for the First Time. Part 1. The Two Voices in Your Head. Every day, two distinct voices compete for control of your wallet, and the winner determines whether you build wealth or stay trapped. Sarah earns $85,000 a year as a marketing manager. She drives a leased BMW, carries designer handbags, and maintains a downtown apartment that costs half her income. Despite her impressive salary, she lives paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, her janitor at the office, Miguel, who makes $35,000 annually, owns 3 rental properties and has $150,000 in index funds. The difference? The voice each person chooses to follow. Your first voice sounds like your worried grandmother during the Depression. It whispers about scarcity, safety, and staying small. This voice inherited memories of empty cupboards and unpaid bills, even if you never experienced them personally. It tells you to grab what you can now because tomorrow might bring disaster. Paradoxically, this safety voice often drives the most dangerous behaviors. Impulse purchases for emotional comfort, avoiding investment because it feels risky, or working endless hours at jobs that barely pay enough to survive. Your second voice sounds like that friend who always seems calm about money. It speaks about patience, growth, and building something lasting. This voice suggests buying quality items that last, investing small amounts consistently, and saying no to immediate pleasures for long-term peace. It trusts that steady, boring actions compound into extraordinary results over decades. Most people never realize these voices exist because they operate automatically. When David Ramsey studied thousands of debt-free families, he discovered that wealthy people consistently made decisions from their future self perspective, while struggling families made decisions from their right now feelings. Consider 2 responses to finding $500 in your tax refund. Voice 1 says, "Finally, let's book that weekend trip." Voice 2 says, "Great, this goes straight to my emergency fund." Neither choice is morally superior, but they lead to completely different financial destinations after 20 years. The surprising truth? Both voices live in millionaires and minimum wage workers alike. The difference is awareness. Wealthy people notice which voice is speaking before making money decisions. They pause between impulse and action, asking, "Is this my scared voice or my wise voice talking?" Start observing your internal money conversations today. When you reach for your credit card, which voice initiated that action? When you skip investing this month, what story did you tell yourself? This awareness, not willpower, becomes your foundation for lasting financial discipline. Part 2. Your life, your numbers. Sarah hadn't opened her banking app in 4 months. Every time the notification popped up, her stomach would tighten, and she'd swipe it away like shooing a fly. "I know I'm bad with money," she'd tell herself, "so why torture myself with proof?" This avoidance felt protective, but it was actually making her anxiety worse. The unknown had become a monster in her mind, growing bigger each day. The truth about your money is almost always less scary than the stories you tell yourself about it. When Sarah finally sat down with a cup of coffee and opened that app, she discovered she wasn't broke. She was spending more than she earned, yes, but by only $200 a month. That felt manageable. The relief was immediate, like finally checking under the bed and finding no monster there. Your money picture lives in 5 simple buckets. First, write down what comes in each month after taxes. Second, list your fixed expenses like rent, car payments, and insurance. Third, estimate your flexible spending on groceries, gas, and utilities. Fourth, face your minimum debt payments. Fifth, track those sneaky little leaks like subscriptions, coffee runs, and impulse Amazon orders. Here's what makes this exercise powerful. You're not creating a strict budget yet. You're just looking. Think of it as taking a photograph of your financial life right now, without judgment. Most people discover they have no idea where their money actually goes. Jennifer thought she spent maybe $50 a month on coffee until she tracked it for 2 weeks and found it was closer to $120. Start with a 1-week money log. Write down every single purchase, no matter how small. Use your phone's notes app or carry a small notebook. After 7 days, you'll spot patterns that surprise you. Maybe you'll notice you spend more when you're stressed, or that your grocery bills double when you shop while hungry. Expand this to a full month if you can handle it. This longer view catches the subscriptions you forgot about, the quarterly bills that sneak up, and the weekend spending that feels invisible during the week. David discovered he was paying for 3 different streaming services he'd forgotten about, plus a gym membership he hadn't used in 8 months. This money mirror isn't a report card measuring your worth as a human being. It's a starting map showing you where you are right now. You can't plan a route to financial freedom without knowing your current location. The shame and fear you feel about money often come from darkness and uncertainty. When you shine a light on the real numbers, they lose their power to terrify you. Clarity about your finances is the first act of self-respect in your money journey. It says, I'm willing to face the truth because I care about my future. This single step separates people who stay stuck from those who quietly build wealth over time. Part 3. What do you really want? Now comes the crucial question. What does being rich actually mean to you? Not what Instagram tells you it should mean, not what your friends think it looks like, but what would make you feel genuinely wealthy and free. Most people chase what psychologists call hedonic adaptation without realizing it. They think a bigger house, a luxury car, or designer clothes will make them happy. But research from Harvard's Happiness Lab shows these status purchases provide only temporary satisfaction. Within months, you're back to baseline happiness levels, often with new debt weighing you down. Consider Sarah, a marketing manager who earned $85,000 annually, but felt broke every month. She drove a leased BMW, lived in an expensive downtown apartment, and wore designer clothes to maintain her image. Meanwhile, her colleague Mike earned $65,000, drove a paid-off Honda Civic, lived in a modest suburb, and had $40,000 saved. Who was actually richer? The difference lies in understanding life goals versus status goals. Life goals center around experiences, relationships, and freedom. Status goals focus on what others see and think about you. Picture your ideal Tuesday. Not a vacation day, but a regular Tuesday. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? How much stress do you feel about money? This exercise reveals what you actually value. Maybe it's working from a coffee shop, picking up your kids at 3 p.m., or having dinner without checking your bank balance. Now comes the practical part. What would that Tuesday cost? If you want to work part-time to spend more time with family, calculate the income reduction. If you want location freedom, research costs in your dream area. If you want creative freedom, estimate how much you need saved to take that risk. This creates your North Star number, the monthly income or wealth target that funds your version of rich. It might be $4,000 monthly for basic comfort, $8,000 for significant freedom, or $15,000 for luxury without worry. These numbers become concrete targets instead of vague dreams. Financial discipline suddenly makes sense when it serves your real goals. Skipping expensive dinners feels easier when you know it brings you closer to working part-time. Driving an older car becomes a smart choice when it accelerates your path to location independence. The wealthy understand this principle. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 because status spending doesn't align with his goals. Your path might look completely different, but the principle remains. Money should serve your values, not society's expectations. Part 4. Redefining success and luxury. Most people think luxury means designer handbags, expensive cars, and 5-star restaurants. But walk through any upscale neighborhood, and you'll discover something shocking. Many of the people living in million-dollar homes are actually broke. Take Sarah, a marketing executive who earns $120,000 a year. Her Instagram shows designer clothes, weekend trips to wine country, and dinners at trendy restaurants. She drives a leased BMW and lives in a beautiful apartment, but Sarah has $47,000 in credit card debt, no savings, and lies awake at 3 a.m. worrying about money. She looks successful, but she's trapped. Compare that to Mike, who owns a small plumbing business. He drives a 10-year-old Ford truck, wears jeans from Target, and lives in a modest house he bought 15 years ago. Most people wouldn't guess that Mike has $800,000 in investments and could retire tomorrow if he wanted to. He sleeps peacefully every night because money doesn't control his life. This is the great lie of our time. We mistake spending for wealth. Social media makes it worse. Everyone posts their purchases, vacations, and restaurant meals. Nobody posts their bank account balance or credit card statements. We see the show, not the reality behind it. Real luxury isn't what you own, it's what owns you, or rather, what doesn't. True luxury is having choices. It's being able to take a lower-paying job you love because you don't need the money. It's helping your parents without checking your account balance first. It's sleeping well because you know next month's rent is already handled. The Millionaires, studied by Thomas Stanley and William Danko in The Millionaire Next Door, proved this point. They found that most wealthy people drive used cars, shop at discount stores, and live below their means. They look ordinary because they spend their money on investments, not image. Consider Warren Buffett, one of the richest people alive. He still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He drives himself to work. He eats at McDonald's for breakfast. This isn't because he's cheap. It's because he understands that every dollar spent on status is a dollar not working for his future. The path to real wealth requires redefining what impressive means. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" start asking, "What can I build?" Instead of seeking approval through purchases, find satisfaction in growing net worth. The most impressive thing about wealthy people isn't what they drive or wear. It's their ability to say no to things that look good but don't serve their bigger goals. This shift changes everything. Cooking dinner at home becomes an investment in your future, not a sacrifice. Driving an older car becomes a smart financial decision, not embarrassment. Saying no to expensive outings becomes self-respect, not missing out. Start thinking like someone who values freedom over flash. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 2: Escaping the Money Trap. Part 1: The Debt Dragon. Your debt isn't just numbers on paper. It's a living creature that grows stronger every month you feed it minimum payments. Meet Sarah, a marketing manager from Denver, who discovered this truth the hard way. For 3 years, she juggled credit card payments across 5 different cards, always making the minimums, always feeling like she was doing something responsible. Yet her total balance kept climbing from $12,000 to $16,000, despite never missing a payment. The debt dragon was feasting. Think of your debt as a dragon that demands tribute every month. Each minimum payment is just enough food to keep this beast alive and growing, but never enough to weaken it. The dragon feeds on interest, typically 18% to 24% annually for credit cards, and every month you pay only the minimum. You're essentially paying rent on money you already spent. Dave Ramsey calls this the minimum payment trap, and the math is brutal. A $5,000 credit card balance at 18% interest takes 47 years to pay off with minimum payments alone, costing over $13,000 in interest. Sarah realized she was feeding a dragon that would outlive her career. The first step to slaying this dragon is seeing its true size. Grab every credit card statement, loan document, and payment notice. Write down the balance, interest rate, and minimum payment for each debt. Sarah discovered her dragon was even bigger than she thought. 6 debts totaling $16,400 with minimum payments of $380 monthly. Now you have 2 proven weapons: The debt snowball method targets your smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate. Sarah started with her $800 department store card, paying every extra dollar toward it while maintaining minimums on others. Within 2 months, she killed her first debt. The psychological victory was immediate, proof she could win this fight. The debt avalanche method attacks the highest interest rate first, mathematically optimal, but emotionally harder. Sarah's friend Jake used this approach, targeting his 24% credit card while his car loan waited. He saved more money, but needed stronger willpower to stay motivated. Both methods work because they create momentum. Each paid-off debt frees up its minimum payment to attack the next target. Sarah's $65 department store payment joined her extra contributions to eliminate her $1,200 medical bill in 4 months. The dragon was shrinking. The emotional journey matters as much as the mathematics. Every payment above the minimum is an act of rebellion against the system designed to keep you trapped. Sarah started celebrating small wins. Cooking dinner instead of ordering takeout freed up $40 for debt payments. She stopped seeing sacrifice and started seeing strength. Your debt dragon isn't invincible. It's a paper tiger that dissolves under consistent, focused attack. Choose your weapon, feed the beast its final meals, and reclaim your financial freedom one payment at a time. Part 2. The first emergency shield. Picture this. Your car won't start on Monday morning. Without an emergency shield, this becomes a crisis that forces you onto the debt treadmill. With one, it's just an inconvenience. This simple financial buffer transforms how you experience life's inevitable curveballs. Meet Tom and Lisa, both facing the same $800 car repair. Tom has no emergency fund and immediately feels that familiar panic. He calculates credit card interest, considers skipping rent, or wonders if he can avoid the mechanic for another week. His stress hormone levels spike. He makes desperate phone calls to family. The repair becomes an emotional tornado that affects his sleep, work performance, and relationships for weeks. Lisa opens her emergency fund account, transfers the money, and schedules the repair. Her biggest concern is which podcast to listen to while waiting. Same problem, completely different experience. The emergency fund didn't prevent the car trouble, but it prevented the secondary disaster of financial panic and poor decisions made under pressure. Your emergency shield doesn't need to be massive to work magic. Even $500 changes everything. Dave Ramsey calls this a starter emergency fund because it breaks the cycle of borrowing for small crises. Most financial emergencies fall under $1,000. Car repairs, medical bills, appliance replacements, or sudden veterinary visits. Start ridiculously small if necessary. Sarah automated $25 per week into a separate savings account she nicknamed Peace of Mind. After 4 months, she had $400. When her laptop died during finals week, she bought a replacement the same day instead of scrambling for credit or missing deadlines. That small buffer gave her confidence to handle bigger challenges. Keep this money completely separate from checking accounts. Open a basic savings account at a different bank if possible. The physical separation creates mental boundaries. You're less likely to dip into emergency funds for dinner out when accessing it requires deliberate effort. Use every windfall strategically. Tax refunds, birthday money, overtime pay, or side gig earnings should feed your shield first. Maria sold unused furniture and electronics, adding $300 to her emergency fund in one weekend. These chunks accelerate progress faster than tiny weekly contributions alone. Your emergency fund represents self-respect and dignity. It's a quiet promise that you refuse to be cornered into panic decisions. People who build this shield first often find saving becomes easier because they've proven money can accumulate safely. This buffer creates psychological breathing room that makes every other financial goal feel more achievable. Part 3. Simplifying your money system. Creating a simple money system is like building a railroad track for your cash. Without tracks, money wanders everywhere and vanishes. With tracks, it flows smoothly where you need it to go. James was drowning in financial chaos. 7 different accounts, scattered bills, and constant stress about whether he had enough money for rent. He'd find $200 in checking, feel rich, then panic when 3 bills hit the same day. Sound familiar? His turning point came when he simplified everything into 4 buckets. Start with one main account where your paycheck lands. Think of this as Grand Central Station for your money. From here, set up automatic transfers to 3 other accounts: needs, wants, and future. The needs account handles rent, groceries, utilities, and other essentials. The wants account funds dining out, entertainment, and guilt-free purchases. The future account feeds your emergency shield and long-term goals. Automation becomes your secret weapon here. Schedule transfers the day after your paycheck arrives. Pay bills automatically from the needs account. This removes the daily mental burden of deciding where money should go. Rachel, a teacher in Phoenix, automated her entire system in 2019. She stopped checking her balance obsessively and reduced money-related arguments with her husband by 80%. Many people fear that budgeting means living in a financial prison. The opposite happens. When David from Seattle created his 4-bucket system, he actually started spending more on concerts and craft beer because he knew that money was specifically allocated for enjoyment. The system gave him permission to spend. Your money system should feel like a gentle river current, not a dam. Bills get paid without drama. Fun spending happens without guilt. Emergency funds grow without constant attention. The goal isn't to track every penny like an accountant, but to create smooth, predictable flows that support your actual life. Remember, rich people don't necessarily earn more money. They often just have better systems for managing what comes in. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 and uses simple, consistent systems for both life and investing. Start this week. Open the accounts you need. Set up one automatic transfer. Watch how this small change reduces daily financial stress and creates space for bigger money decisions. Part 4. Designing your rich life spending. You're already managing money better than most people. Now comes the interesting part: spending it in a way that makes you genuinely happy. Sarah worked at a consulting firm and earned $75,000 a year. After setting up her automated system, she had $800 monthly for discretionary spending. For months, she felt guilty about every purchase. Coffee with friends? Guilty. New running shoes? Guilty. A weekend trip? Guilty. She was saving money but felt miserable about spending any of it. The problem wasn't her budget. The problem was that she hadn't decided what mattered to her. Without clear priorities, every purchase felt like a potential mistake. Rich people understand something crucial. Restriction without purpose feels like punishment, but boundaries with intention feel like freedom. When you know exactly what you care about, spending decisions become simple. Start by identifying 3 categories that genuinely light you up. Maybe it's travel, learning new skills, or quality time with family. These become your rich life categories. You spend freely here without guilt because you've already decided these areas matter to you. David, a teacher earning $45,000, chose 3 categories: books, weekend adventures with his kids, and quality coffee equipment. He allocated $300 monthly across these areas and spent it happily. Everything else? He became ruthlessly cheap. Generic groceries, basic phone plan, old car. His friends called him weird for buying $20 coffee beans while driving a 15-year-old Honda. But David felt rich because his money supported his actual values. The magic happens in what you cut, not just what you keep. Most people leak money through subscriptions they forgot about, impulse purchases that provide 5 minutes of joy, and status items bought to impress people they don't even like. Lisa discovered she was spending $400 monthly on clothes she rarely wore, restaurant meals that weren't special, and a gym membership she used twice. She redirected that money toward photography equipment and travel. Same income, completely different life satisfaction. When friends pressure you to spend on things that don't align with your values, simple scripts work. I'm saving for something important right now. Or, that sounds fun, but it's not in my budget this month. Most people respect honest boundaries more than elaborate excuses. The goal isn't to live like a monk. It's to spend your money on things that actually matter to you, instead of drifting through purchases on autopilot. When you fund your genuine priorities first, saying no to everything else becomes easy. Your rich life might look completely different from someone else's, and that's exactly the point. Chapter 3. Let your money work, not you alone. Part 1. The day you meet investing. Picture this: your money sleeping peacefully in a savings account, earning almost nothing while prices climb higher each month. What if you could wake it up and put it to work instead? This is the moment most people discover the power of investing, though many approach it like entering a haunted house. Think of saving versus investing like the difference between storing seeds in a jar versus planting them in rich soil. Warren Buffett understood this distinction early, buying his first stock at age 11 and later regretting he waited so long. Your savings account protects your money from disappearing, much like that jar keeps seeds safe from mice. But investing plants those seeds where they can grow into something much larger over time. The magic happens through compound growth, which Albert Einstein reportedly called the eighth wonder of the world. When McDonald's first went public in 1965, a single share cost $22.50. Today, after decades of splits and growth, that original investment would be worth over $20,000. The money didn't just sit there, it multiplied because the company kept earning profits and reinvesting them. Here's where most people stumble. They wait for the perfect moment to start. Sarah, a teacher from Ohio, began investing just $25 per month at age 25. Her friend Mike waited until 35, then invested $100 monthly. Despite Mike contributing nearly twice as much total money, Sarah ended up with more wealth by retirement. Time gave her the advantage that money alone couldn't match. Yes, markets move up and down like a roller coaster. During the 2008 financial crisis, many portfolios lost 40% of their value. People panicked and sold everything, locking in those losses permanently. But those who stayed calm and kept investing watched their money recover and grow beyond previous levels within a few years. Consider the S&P 500 index, which tracks America's largest companies. Despite wars, recessions, and countless crises over the past century, someone who invested in this broad collection of businesses and held on would have seen their money grow roughly 10% per year on average. Not every year brought gains, but patience rewarded those who understood that investing means buying pieces of productive businesses, not lottery tickets. Starting small removes the fear of losing everything. Even $10 weekly, invested consistently for 30 years, could grow into six figures. The key is beginning this relationship with patience and realistic expectations, not hoping for overnight wealth. Your future self will thank you for planting those first seeds today. Part 2. Owning the world in one click. Think of the stock market like the world's biggest grocery store, but instead of buying apples or oranges, you're buying tiny pieces of companies. Now imagine trying to pick which single apple will be the sweetest in 5 years. Pretty tough, right? Most people think investing means becoming a stock picker, studying company reports, and trying to guess which businesses will soar. That's like walking into a massive orchard and betting your lunch money on one tree. What if that tree gets sick or the weather turns bad? Here's where index funds change everything. Think of an index fund as buying the entire fruit basket instead of gambling on individual pieces. When you buy shares in a broad market index fund, you instantly own microscopic slivers of hundreds or thousands of companies. Apple, Microsoft, small startups, big banks, tech companies, grocery chains, all mixed together in one simple purchase. Jack Bogle, who created the first index fund at Vanguard in 1976, faced ridicule from Wall Street experts who called his idea un-American because it aimed for average returns instead of trying to beat the market. Yet his simple approach proved revolutionary. The numbers tell the story. Over the past 20 years, roughly 80% of actively managed funds that claim to pick winning stocks have failed to beat basic index funds. Why do these boring funds win so often? Two reasons that quietly make a massive difference. First, costs eat your returns alive. Active funds often charge 1 to 2% in fees annually, while index funds typically cost 0.1% or less. That difference might seem small, but over decades, it's enormous. On a 100,000 rupee investment growing at 10% annually, paying an extra 1% in fees costs you over 60,000 rupees after 20 years. Second, index funds remove human emotions from the equation. Fund managers panic during crashes and get greedy during bubbles, just like everyone else. Index funds simply buy everything and hold on, automatically capturing the market's long-term growth without second-guessing. You don't need to understand balance sheets or analyze earnings reports. You don't need to predict which industry will boom next year. You just need to own a small piece of productive businesses and let them work for you over time. The beauty lies in its simplicity. One purchase gives you ownership in the entire economy's growth engine. Part 3. Rules of the Calm Investor. Your phone buzzes with a news alert. Market crashes 15% in single day. Your stomach drops. What happens next determines your financial future. Most people react with pure emotion. They panic and sell everything when markets fall, then buy frantically when prices soar. Benjamin Graham watched this pattern destroy fortunes for decades on Wall Street. He called it the most expensive mistake in investing. Consider two friends who started investing in January 2000, right before the dot-com crash. Sarah checked her account daily, reading every financial headline. When the market dropped 30%, she sold everything to protect what was left. When it recovered, she bought back in at higher prices. She repeated this cycle through every market swing. Meanwhile, her friend Mike followed 3 simple rules. He invested the same amount every month, regardless of headlines. He checked his balance once per year, like clockwork. Most importantly, he decided in advance never to sell during crashes. 20 years later, Mike had 3 times more money than Sarah, despite investing the same amounts. The difference wasn't intelligence or luck, it was emotional control. The secret lies in understanding that markets move like weather. Some days bring storms, others bring sunshine. You cannot predict which day will be which. But you can prepare for both by staying consistent. Warren Buffett's teacher, Ben Graham, developed the Mr. Market concept to explain this. Imagine the stock market as an unstable business partner who offers to buy or sell your shares daily. Some days he's optimistic and offers high prices. Other days he's depressed and offers low prices. The wise investor ignores Mr. Market's mood swings and focuses on the underlying value of their investments. The hardest part is ignoring social pressure. Your colleague might brag about making 50% on cryptocurrency. Your neighbor might panic about economic headlines. Remember that investing is not a competition with others. It's a partnership with time and compound growth. Dollar cost averaging serves as your emotional anchor. When you invest the same amount monthly, you automatically buy more shares when prices are low and fewer when prices are high. This removes the guesswork and protects you from your own emotions. The calm investor wins because they understand a profound truth. Controlling your reactions matters more than predicting market movements. While others chase yesterday's winners and flee from temporary losses, you build wealth quietly through consistency and patience. Part 4. Building your freedom machine. Think of your investment plan as building a machine that works while you sleep. Just like assembling a bicycle, you need the right parts in the right places, working together smoothly. Start with deciding how much of your monthly income becomes fuel for this machine. Suze Orman built her wealth by automatically investing 20% of every dollar she earned. But you might start with 10% or even 5%. The key is picking a number you can stick with month after month without feeling stressed about groceries or rent. Next comes the mixing recipe. Think of it like making tea. You need the right balance of ingredients. Put some money in safe places like savings accounts or government bonds. These won't grow much, but they won't disappear either. Then put the rest in growth investments like stock index funds. A simple rule many successful investors follow. Subtract your age from 100. If you're 30, put 70% in stocks and 30% in safe investments. Now comes the magic part, automation. Set up your bank account so money moves to your investments on the same day you get paid. Warren Buffett's company Berkshire Hathaway grew because he consistently reinvested profits without thinking about it each time. Your automatic transfers work the same way. Most people check their investment balance like they check social media, constantly and nervously. Instead, look at your progress every 3 months. Celebrate small wins, like reaching your first 1,000 lakh, then 5 lakh. These milestones feel real and keep you motivated. The real breakthrough happens when your investments start paying you. Maybe your monthly dividends cover your phone bill, then your electricity bill. Suddenly, work feels different. You're there because you choose to be, not because you have to be. John Bogle, founder of Vanguard, built his entire investment philosophy on this simple machine concept. He automated everything and let compound growth do the heavy lifting. His personal wealth grew to hundreds of millions, not through complicated strategies, but through consistent, automatic investing in simple index funds. Your freedom machine gets stronger every month. Each contribution is like adding another gear or bolt. Some months the machine seems to move backward when markets drop, but over years it builds momentum. The money works nights, weekends, and holidays. You wake up richer than when you went to sleep, and that feeling never gets old. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Staying Rich. Part 1. Money and the Stories We Tell Ourselves. Money is the most emotional topic in most households, yet we pretend it's purely logical. Sarah, a marketing manager earning $75,000 annually, couldn't understand why she felt anxious every time she checked her bank account, even though she had money saved. The problem wasn't her math skills. It was the voice in her head repeating her mother's words. Money doesn't grow on trees, and we can't afford that. These invisible scripts start early. Before you could tie your shoes, you were absorbing messages about money from every conversation, argument, and worried glance between your parents. Maybe you learned that rich people are selfish, that wanting money makes you greedy, or that financial struggles are just part of life. Thomas Stanley's research in The Millionaire Next Door revealed that many wealthy individuals grew up hearing completely different stories. That money was a tool, that saving was smart, not stingy. Consider how these beliefs play out in real situations. When Mark, a software developer, received a promotion and raise, he immediately started looking at expensive apartments and cars. His internal story said, "If I make more, I should spend more." This belief, common in American culture, explains why lottery winners often end up broke. The money changed, but the story didn't. On the flip side, some people carry scripts that create unnecessary guilt around spending. Jessica, an accountant, would agonize over buying a $12 lunch because her grandmother's Depression-era voice whispered that such spending was wasteful. She had $40,000 in savings, but lived like she was broke. Your money stories become particularly loud during stress. When the car breaks down or a medical bill arrives, do you hear, "We never have enough," or "We'll figure this out"? These internal narratives drive decisions faster than any budget spreadsheet. Dave Ramsey often shares how people make terrible financial choices when operating from fear rather than calm planning. The key isn't eliminating these stories entirely. They're woven into your identity. Instead, notice them without judgment. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm terrible with money," pause and ask, "Is this actually true, or is this something I learned long ago?" Morgan Housel's research shows that our financial behaviors are more influenced by personal experiences and inherited beliefs than by education or intelligence. Start rewriting one story at a time. Instead of, "I can't afford this," try, "This isn't aligned with my current priorities." Replace "rich people are greedy" with "wealth can be a tool for good." These small shifts in language create space for different choices and ultimately different outcomes. Part 2. Habits of Quiet Millionaires. The research on actual millionaires reveals something surprising. Most wealthy people drive used cars, live in modest homes, and you'd never guess their net worth by looking at their lifestyle. Sarah Chen makes $85,000 as a software engineer in Austin. Her colleague David makes the same amount, but drives a BMW lease, while Sarah drives her 2016 Honda Civic. 5 years later, Sarah has $120,000 invested, while David has car payments and credit card debt. The difference isn't income. It's what they do with the money after they earn it. Real millionaires master one fundamental habit. They spend less than they earn consistently. Warren Buffett still lives in the same Omaha house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. This isn't about being cheap. It's about being intentional. Every dollar spent on status is a dollar that can't grow into more money later. The quiet wealthy automate their success. They set up automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday before they can spend the money elsewhere. Dr. Thomas Stanley's research in The Millionaire Next Door found that 80% of millionaires are first-generation rich, meaning they built wealth through discipline, not inheritance. These people say no frequently. No to expensive dinners they can't afford. No to weekend trips that would drain their emergency fund. No to helping friends move when they need to work on their side business. This isn't selfishness. It's recognizing that time and energy are finite resources that must be protected. They embrace good enough in most areas. A reliable car that gets them to work safely. A comfortable home in a decent neighborhood. Clothes that fit well and last years. They save their perfectionism for things that actually matter. Their investment strategy, their career development, their health. The secretly wealthy understand compound interest viscerally. They know that $500 invested monthly from age 25 becomes over $1.3 million by age 65 at 7% returns. This math makes it easier to skip the fancy restaurant and pack lunch instead. What makes them different isn't willpower, it's systems. They've created environments where good financial choices happen automatically. Their checking account has just enough for monthly expenses. Everything else goes toward goals. They've eliminated the daily decision fatigue that breaks most people's financial discipline. Most importantly, they measure progress differently. Instead of tracking what they can afford to buy, they track what they own that generates money. This shift changes everything. Part 3. Relationships, Family, and Money. Money decisions happen inside relationships, not spreadsheets. The couple who quietly builds wealth together has learned something most people miss entirely. Sarah and Mike nearly divorced over money 5 years ago. She saved every receipt and planned months ahead. He bought coffee daily and forgot bills existed. Sound familiar? Today, they own 3 rental properties together. What changed wasn't their personalities. It was how they talked about money. The breakthrough came during a simple conversation. Instead of Sarah listing Mike's spending mistakes, she said, "I feel scared when we don't have a plan. Can we talk about what we both want?" Mike admitted he felt controlled and judged. They discovered both wanted security, just expressed differently. This reveals the first principle. Money fights are rarely about money. They're about feeling heard, respected, and safe. When couples argue about the grocery bill, They're often fighting about power, trust, or different childhoods. Real wealth builders create shared rules instead of fighting individual battles. Warren Buffett and his wife Astrid have simple agreements about spending limits. Below a certain amount, either can spend without asking. Above that threshold, they discuss together. No drama, no resentment. Children learn money attitudes by watching, not listening. A father who constantly complains about prices while buying expensive gadgets sends mixed messages. But parents who involve kids in age-appropriate money decisions, comparing prices at the store, explaining why they choose used cars, or showing how compound interest grows savings, raise financially aware adults. Social pressure creates the biggest relationship challenge around money. Friends suggest expensive restaurants. Family members expect lavish gifts. Coworkers organize costly group activities. Saying no feels awkward, but wealthy people have learned scripts that protect both relationships and budgets. Try this. That sounds fun, but we're focusing on saving this month. How about we do something at home instead? Or, we'd love to celebrate with you. Can we contribute in a different way? Most people respect honest boundaries more than financial pretending. The couples who build lasting wealth talk about money regularly but briefly. They have monthly check-ins about goals and spending. They celebrate progress together. They adjust plans when life changes, without blame or defensiveness. Building financial discipline becomes significantly easier when your closest relationships support rather than sabotage your efforts. Money conversations might feel uncomfortable initially, but they create the foundation for shared prosperity. Part 4. Designing your lifetime money plan. Think of your financial life like a video game where you advance through different levels. You start at level 1, possibly with debt monsters to defeat, and gradually work your way up to the final boss, complete financial freedom. The beauty of this approach is that you don't need to see the entire game map to begin playing. Most people get overwhelmed because they try to solve everything at once. They want to pay off debt, save for emergencies, invest for retirement, and buy a house simultaneously. This approach usually leads to paralysis or giving up entirely. Dave Ramsey discovered this when he went bankrupt in his 20s and had to rebuild everything from scratch. His solution became the foundation for millions of people. Tackle one level at a time. Level 1 involves stabilizing your current situation. If you have high-interest debt, this becomes your primary focus. Think of it as clearing the battlefield before you can build anything meaningful. Sarah, a teacher from Ohio, had $45,000 in credit card debt at age 32. Instead of trying to invest while paying minimum payments, she focused exclusively on debt elimination for 18 months. This single focus allowed her to attack the problem with intensity rather than spreading her efforts thin. Level 2 introduces your emergency fund, typically 3 to 6 months of expenses. This isn't just money sitting in an account, it's your shield against life's unexpected attacks. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, people with emergency funds could weather job losses without destroying their long-term plans. Those without them often had to liquidate investments or accumulate more debt. Level 3 begins your wealth-building phase. Here's where compound interest becomes your best friend. Warren Buffett made 99% of his wealth after age 50, not because he suddenly got smarter, but because he started early and let time work its magic. A simple index fund strategy, as advocated by John Bogle, founder of Vanguard, can grow your money without requiring you to become a financial expert. The final levels involve refining your strategy as your wealth grows. You might consider real estate, additional business ventures, or more sophisticated investment approaches. But these advanced moves only make sense once you've mastered the earlier stages. Your plan needs flexibility built in. Life rarely follows a straight path. You might get married, have children, change careers, or face health challenges. Thomas Stanley's research on Millionaires showed that most successful people adjusted their plans multiple times while maintaining their core discipline. Set milestone check-ins every 6 months. Ask yourself, am I progressing as expected? What obstacles have emerged? What opportunities have appeared? This prevents you from blindly following a plan that no longer fits your reality. The key insight is that financial discipline isn't just about this year or next year. You're writing a story that spans decades. Each chapter builds on the previous one, creating momentum that becomes increasingly powerful over time. Chapter 5, Living Your Rich Life Daily Part 1, A Perfect Ordinary Money Day. Real wealth builds itself in the ordinary moments between your morning coffee and evening wind-down. Consider Sarah, a marketing manager who transformed her financial life not through dramatic gestures, but through a series of small daily habits that took just minutes. Her transformation began when she realized that checking her bank account shouldn't feel like opening a scary movie. Instead, she made it as routine as brushing her teeth. Every Tuesday morning, Sarah spends exactly 5 minutes reviewing her accounts. Not obsessing, not panicking about every purchase from the previous week, just a gentle check-in. She opens her banking app, confirms her automatic savings transfer happened, and notes any unusual spending. This simple ritual keeps her connected to her money without letting it control her mood for the entire day. Collins talks about the power of simple systems in The Simple Path to Wealth, and Sarah embodies this principle. She doesn't use complicated spreadsheets or track every penny. Instead, she has 3 automatic transfers, 1 to savings, 1 to investments, and 1 to her vacation fund. Most days she doesn't think about them at all. They just happen, like her heartbeat. When Sarah does spend money intentionally, she has a simple rule borrowed from Ramit Sethi's approach. She tracks only the purchases that matter. That $4 coffee? She doesn't sweat it. But the $200 she spent on clothes last weekend? That goes into her phone's notes app with a quick comment. Needed work clothes. Felt good about it. The real magic happens during Sarah's weekly money date. Every Sunday evening, she sits with her laptop and reviews the week. Not to judge herself, but to celebrate small wins and make gentle adjustments. Last month, she noticed she was spending more on takeout than usual. Instead of feeling guilty, she increased her food budget slightly and found other areas to trim back. This approach contrasts sharply with traditional budgeting advice that treats every dollar like a military operation. Sarah's friend Mike tried that system for years, creating elaborate spreadsheets and tracking every expense. He burned out within months, abandoned the whole system, and went back to financial chaos. Sarah uses simple tools that support her rather than complicate her life. Her banking app sends her a weekly spending summary. Her investment app shows her progress without daily market noise. These tools serve her goals rather than creating new sources of stress. The transformation isn't about perfection. Some weeks, Sarah forgets to do her Sunday review. Sometimes she overspends on things that don't matter, but her basic systems keep running in the background, and small course corrections keep her moving forward. Financial discipline grows in these ordinary moments, not during dramatic financial emergencies or windfalls. Part 2. When life goes off script. That afternoon, David's phone buzzed with news that would change everything. The startup where he had worked for 6 years was shutting down immediately. His colleagues panicked, frantically updating resumes and calling emergency family meetings about mortgage payments. David felt the familiar knot in his stomach, but something was different this time. He had built systems that could handle this moment. The first thing David did was nothing. He sat quietly for 10 minutes, letting the initial shock settle. This wasn't denial or delay, it was strategic thinking. When your world shifts suddenly, your first instinct is often your worst instinct. The people who handle financial emergencies well have learned to pause before they react. By evening, David had completed his damage assessment. His emergency fund could cover 8 months of essential expenses. His automated investments would continue for now, giving him time to think clearly about whether to pause them. Most importantly, he knew exactly what his essential expenses were because he had been tracking them for 2 years. This wasn't about having perfect systems. It was about having any system at all. Compare this to his neighbor Jenny, who discovered during a similar crisis that she had no clear picture of her monthly expenses. She spent 3 days in panic mode, calling credit card companies and trying to piece together her financial reality while simultaneously job hunting. The stress of financial uncertainty compounded the stress of unemployment. David immediately cut his spending to essentials. No subscriptions, no restaurant meals, no online purchases without a 24-hour waiting period. This felt restricted for about a week, then became oddly liberating. When you strip away everything non-essential, you often discover how little you actually needed in the first place. The hardest part was asking for help. David reached out to 3 people in his network and hired a career coach. This felt like admitting failure until his mentor reminded him that wealthy people are constantly seeking advice and paying for expertise. Pride is expensive when you cannot afford it. 3 months later, David landed a better position with a 20% salary increase. His emergency fund remained mostly intact because he had responded strategically rather than emotionally. More importantly, he had proven to himself that his financial systems worked when it mattered most. This is what financial resilience looks like. Not perfect planning that prevents every problem, but smart preparation that minimizes damage when problems inevitably arrive. The goal was never to avoid all financial stress. It was to handle stress from a position of strength rather than desperation. Part 3. From Discipline to Identity. Think of your relationship with money like learning to play an instrument. At first, you consciously think about every note, every movement. But eventually, your fingers know where to go without conscious thought. The same transformation happens when you stop trying to force financial discipline and start becoming someone who naturally handles money well. The magic happens when your identity shifts. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to save money," you begin thinking, "I'm someone who saves." This isn't just wordplay. It's the difference between temporary behavior and permanent change. Research by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck shows that identity-based habits stick because they align with how we see ourselves. When your actions match your identity, you stop fighting yourself. Start collecting evidence of your new identity. Each time you pay extra on debt, you prove you're someone who eliminates debt. When you invest consistently for 6 months, you demonstrate you're an investor. These small victories accumulate like compound interest. Sarah, a teacher from Ohio, paid an extra $50 monthly on her student loans for 8 months straight. By month 9, she wasn't forcing herself to make that payment. She was simply acting like someone who pays off debt quickly. But here's where most people stumble: lifestyle inflation. The moment income increases, spending rises to match it. This pattern keeps even high earners trapped. Dr. Thomas Stanley's research in The Millionaire Next Door revealed that many 6-figure earners live paycheck to paycheck because they upgrade everything: cars, homes, vacations with each raise. Smart wealth builders create guardrails. They might decide to always save 20% of any income increase before considering lifestyle upgrades. Or they establish rules like no car payment over $300 regardless of their income. James, an engineer who doubled his salary over 5 years, kept driving his Honda Civic and living in his starter home until he had a 6-month emergency fund and substantial investments. His identity wasn't tied to showing wealth, it was tied to building it. The shift feels subtle but profound. You stop being someone who's temporarily restricting spending and become someone who naturally makes smart money choices. Your brain stops viewing budgeting as deprivation and starts seeing it as taking care of future you. This identity change creates momentum that carries you through decades, not just months. When you truly embody this new identity, money decisions become simpler. You don't debate whether to invest this month. Investors invest. You don't struggle with impulse purchases. You're someone who thinks before spending. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency flowing from character rather than willpower. Part 4. Your Legacy Money Letter. Now comes the hardest part: writing down what you really believe about money and passing that wisdom forward. Warren Buffett writes an annual letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, sharing his thoughts on investing, business, and life. These letters have become legendary because they capture decades of experience in clear, honest language. You need to write your own version, not for shareholders, but for the people who matter most to you. This isn't about creating a formal document. Think of it as a conversation with someone you care about. Maybe your future self or a younger family member who's just starting out. What would you tell them about the money lessons that changed everything for you? Start with your biggest mistakes. John D. Rockefeller kept detailed journals about his business decisions, including the failures that taught him the most. Your letter should include the debt that nearly broke you, the investment that went wrong, or the spending habit that kept you stuck. These stories aren't meant to embarrass you. They're meant to save someone else from learning the same lessons the hard way. Write about your turning points too. Maybe it was the day you finally tracked every expense and realized where your money was really going. Or when you automated your first investment and watched it grow without thinking about it. These moments matter because they show how small changes can create big results over time. Include your non-negotiable rules. Dave Ramsey tells his listeners to never borrow money for a car that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. What are your equivalent rules? Maybe you always pay yourself first, or you never touch your emergency fund for wants instead of needs. These guidelines will help future decision-makers when emotions run high. Don't forget to write about generosity and contentment. Money isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's about having enough to help others and finding peace with what you have. The Giving Pledge, started by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, shows how the wealthiest people think about legacy. Your version might be smaller in scale, but equally important in impact. This letter becomes your financial GPS when life gets confusing. Markets crash, opportunities appear, and unexpected expenses arise. In those moments, you can return to your own words and remember what you learned when your thinking was clear. Your money journey doesn't end with this letter. It begins a new chapter guided by the wisdom you've gained.